Satsangadve nisangadvam nisanhatve nirmohatvam nisanhatve nishalatatvam nishalatatve jiva mukti bhaja gobinda bhaja gobinda bhaja gobinda numate. Just take a moment to become aware of your breath, and then I want you to take a moment of offering your practice today to your journey. And bring your hands to prayer and bow your head. Namaste. So if we take it from the first part where it says like Sat San Gadve Nisan Gadvam, it says that it leads us from non-attachment. So if we think about what we've discussed in class, this non-attachment, what do you think that means to you, to be non-attached?
Freedom?
Yeah, freedom. Well done, Brian. It's on form today. So when we think about this non-attachment, it gives us freedom. Freedom from delusion that materialistic things are going to make us happy. So we can take that line. And then the second one, which Brian just says, the second verse is, non-attachment leads to freedom. Freedom of that whirling of the mind. Freedom from thinking that more materialistic things are going to bring us happiness. Yeah? So we discussed that in class. And then the second part, it says, then from the freedom leads us to that steady mind, not that fluctuation of the mind so much. And then from a steady mind comes liberation. And liberation is, what's liberation? Another word for liberation? Freedom. Yeah? So once we learn to calm the mind, then we become freer. Thinking that this grasping, and we were doing that a couple of weeks ago, this grasping all leads us to this happiness. And when we realise that, then it carries on. So I'm going to leave these couple of books out. So this is what we're talking about today. You have a handout for those that have studied the book very carefully, obviously. Yeah? So, but I'll leave these at the front. So there's some really nice pictures in some of these. So we're going to start by just a little recap of what we discussed last time. So what is this Bhagavad Gita? What does the title mean? Does anyone remember from last time what the title means? Song of the Lords. So it's already giving us a piece of information that before this was written down, it was a song, or it was repeated between communities, families. So they were studying it orally. So that's why it was originally in Sanskrit, because that was a language that was spoken. And it was an oral language as well. It wasn't meant to necessarily be written down. So it was like rhymes or poems, yeah? The way the book has been written, yeah? So it's supposed to be sung. So roughly what we know, this is a relationship between a student and a teacher, the book is, yeah? So it's about how you can find your guru in anywhere, in any circumstances, yeah? So it's this young man. Do you remember the name of the young man in the book? Arjuna. So Arjuna is the student in this, and Arjuna is a great warrior, and He is the backbone of his family. He has one point of focus. He's a man, a young warrior who's right on point, yeah? He's never lets anyone down. And he's one point of focus. He's a man of action, yeah? So, and his charioteer is who? Lord Krishna. And he's appeared not as a god, but he's appeared as his friend. Yeah? He's come to him as a friend when he needs him. So he's his charioteer. So we found them in the middle of this battle, and it's not Arjuna's battle. He's helping out his family again. Yeah? And he appears in the middle of the battlefield. Do you remember that for those that were here last time? And he gets to the battlefield and he looks around this battle and he sees family and friends. And he stands up and he drops to the floor. He's basically having a panic attack. So let's take it back a little bit. This is not a battlefield. This is the battle within your mind. Yeah? And these could be your family, or they could be your emotions. It could be anger, jealousy, fear, frustration, and your mind is whirling. Yeah? You're having a panic attack. Yeah? And you just can't breathe. And his friend looks down at him and he says, you have no choice but to fight. Get up. Now, how many of you really wanted to come today? Really wanted to come? Yeah? How many of you woke up and went, oh, I don't know if I can make it today? There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah? So, as a friend, or you text me and says, I've got a bit of a backache. What do you reckon, Dawn? You have no choice but to get up and fight. You've got to get up. How many times in the morning does your alarm clock go and you think, I'll just put it on snooze for a little bit longer? Yeah? You have no choice. You've got to get up and carry on. Or you choose not to. Two choices. Get up and fight or don't. So his charioteer, Lord Krishna's bent down, picking him up. That's where we found him. Yeah? And then we move a little bit on, and we discussed this last time. So Arjuna now is asking him these questions. You remember? What is his life about? What is his purpose in life? What is he doing here? So quickly to catch up for those that didn't, he asks like, what happens to me when I die? And he says, Krishna turns to him and says, it's like taking off old clothing and then you put another one on. So it's about reincarnation. The body dies, but the soul lives. What's the soul called? Atman. Yeah? So he explains that to him. He also tells him about non-attachment, and we're going to read about that again today. And you've been discussing that in class. He teaches us that everything we're looking for is already inside us, and all these materialistic things are not going to bring us happiness. Now, if you are a very wealthy person, remember your yoga teacher. But secondly, that if you are in that situation, yeah, I know how much land she's got. And if you are in that situation, it's about giving to others, but not seeking rewards. You don't want your face on Instagram sitting next to a homeless person, yeah? You give not to seek rewards. And he says to him, you can grow a tree, but don't keep all the fruits for yourself. So you want to share that, like Pierce has done today. Isn't this beautiful surroundings? So you share that, and you don't hold all the fruits for yourself. Then he goes on to say, those with flowery words are only doing it for their own ego. Do you know anyone with flowery words? Not your teacher. So this brings us up today. So Lord Krishna starts to talk about the way of a yogi. And he says, seek how the yogis live. And we're going to look at them verses today, the 18 glorious verses of how a yogi lives. So Arjuna turns and says that I want to be like these yogis. Tell me how they live, how they sit, how they walk, how they they live their lives, I want to know. And he says that those that live a yogic life have this calmness within their minds. So this brings us to the 8 limbs of yoga that we've been talking about in class, but he explains it in a different way. And this is what we're going to look at today. He says, for those that live this yogic life, they find refuge within themselves. Now, let's just go back a little bit. How relevant do you think this is to our everyday lives? These old scriptures, how they can help us in our everyday lives. So it says that if we have alcohol, we have drugs, we have these materialistic things, we can be happy. How long does that last?
5 minutes.
Not long, yeah?
Then you want some more.
And then you need more to stay there. Or we can buy more things. And how long does that last? Not long. And it's the same that we can dwell in this sorrow. But how far along do we get? We just go deeper and deeper into this hole. So he's trying to teach Krishna, Krishna's trying to teach Arjuna that by living this life, you can live in this world. You don't need to be separate from it, but you can sustain this calmness within your mind. You don't fluctuate as much. If we start to have a look at these second chapter, it's like sattvic. It's like this steadiness of the mind. They're not fluctuation. So what does yoga mean? Union. So he's saying people that have this union don't have this fluctuation of the mind. So this was like, this book, well, we think it's roughly like 400 BC. I always wonder what they were attached to then. You know, it's fascinating to think like, what were they attached to? You know, they obviously needed firewood and other stuff, but this attachment, he was already talking about it then. And look how much we have now.
Things like emotions and jealousy. And
Yeah, of course, as well.
tangible
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And that's what I said, you could have this field of your emotions. It's not necessarily a battle, but this field of emotions. So it's like finding that falling in love with yourself, but not in an ego sense. It'd be like this. It'd be like, you know, you've got to give me everything to fill that hole in me. And if you don't, I'm going to be devastated. But start to realise that Vanessa's not going to fill all that big void inside me. I've got to fill that myself. Do you see what I mean? It's like always expecting somebody else to make you feel better. I've moved, she's going to tell me off. It's that. So yeah, exactly what you said. It's not just materialistic things from outside. It's like you can keep seeking that love and that joy from others rather than inside you. Last time we discussed that in real depth about how he says when he looks to the field and sees family members there and he's like, how can I take their life? And he said, you know, when you look at somebody that you love, their soul continues. I had this when I lost my father. When the soul continues, the body dies and they're no longer in pain and the soul continues on. So when you have that, it's a kind of a comforting thing, and that to remember a loved one when they've gone as well. So the next one is that your favourite line? It's my favourite line. And then your life is utter waste. So exactly what we were just talking about. So if you see that, can you see 58, guys? Can you see that on your sheet? Yeah. So it says, just like a tortoise when it draws in its limbs. Yours. But so as it says, is like if you imagine a tortoise that can draw in its limbs, yeah, when you're driven by your senses, that's what we said, so lust, pleasure and pain, and it's that way, always outwards, you never look inwards. So put your paperwork away for a moment. We're going to do something, just for a moment. So watch me first. I'm going to cover my ears. I'm going to rest my fingers just on my eyes. I'm going to gently rest my fingers just on my nose, and I'm going to cover here. When I want to breathe in, I lift up, I breathe in through my mouth, I can. I cover, and I can breathe back out. I want you can breathe through your nose, or you can keep your mouth covered and breathe through your nose, yeah? So you don't have to, you're not holding your breath. You take a breath in, and then you close off gently, yeah? So just do this with me. Cover your senses, our ears, eyes, nose, mouth. And then slowly release. That's it, slowly release your hands. How did you feel? Peaceful? Yeah? How did you feel? Calm. Yeah? Because we're so used to looking outwards and taking so much information on. This is when I've been saying to you in class about your iPhones and your watches. Yeah? Because you're so switched on. And then when you start to learn to meditate or take that time of just being with yourself, it can change. And this is what he was teaching about being like a tortoise and drawing your limbs in. And if you're constantly outwards, your life is utterly wasted. To just bring yourself in more. So he's also talking about meditation, but this is one way, this is a form of it, of just switching everything off for a moment and being a little bit calmer. How's that work out for you, Gary? This is nice, yeah? Just to switch off for a moment. That it's like an ocean of awareness where you just consider all the time, how am I feeling today? How's my mind today? How's my body today? It's all me, 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 I. To take a moment to say, how are you feeling today? Yeah? It's not always about you. It's not always the dawn show. It's taking a moment to check in with our loved ones to ask how they're feeling. But it's also having that balance to actually take a moment to check on how you're feeling as well. So you want that balance again. It's not always about others, and it's not always about just you. It's finding that balance. And then he was saying it's like a river of awareness. Yeah? We live in this world, but we also live in another world as well. That knowing that we're more than just this body. We're aware that there's more than just our body. There's an internal, and we can calm that mind. We can do it. It is achievable. And when we calm that mind, then the seer dwells in its own true splendor. Then you see your true potential. Has anybody read these 2 chapters? There's ways of reading it, and when you're literally just reading it, you've got to kind of take a moment and actually really kind of break it down and really kind of get it. Remember, it was a song. It was some people describe it as a poem. I think, you know, it depends where you are on your journey. You know, mine was always the Yoga Sutras, if you haven't, if you didn't notice. And then later on become this, and I love this. And then, you know, just recently more the Upanishads, which is another whole different book and a whole different area. But it does come to you as you develop in your life. So it says here that they're forever free of selfish desires, and they break away from this cage of ego of I am me. Yeah, so it's not just about you. And it's also about taking responsibility for your behavior and how you live your life. And when you take responsibility for your behavior, for your actions, you can then learn from that behavior in your actions. And also sometimes others, like, you know, I'll just, you know, sort of sit back and go quite quiet and let them do their thing. Doesn't mean I have to get involved in it. About not getting involved in that gossiping, not getting involved in that. Sometimes even separating yourself from other people because you don't want to be around that. So you have to be responsibility for yourself. Yeah, you don't have to be involved in that world. You choose not to. You know, we can look at, if we look back again, what I was talking about yesterday in class about the Yoga Sutras, where it says that this chitta vritti nirodha, this fluctuations of the mind, like a washing machine. This is what it's saying for you to draw in within yourself to calm that through meditation, through mantra, through your physical practice. So, if you had a film made about your life, how would you want yourself to look? And then another question, don't have to answer me now, for you to reflect on. If you had a movie about your life and how you wanted to look, how far away are you from that being? Yeah? Because that's possible. It's not impossible. And if you were a warrior, as we all are, because we all have battles, what kind of warrior would you want to be?
Understanding one.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So it's you know, we all have this journey. We all are warriors. Every day we have a battle. How many of you can relate to Arjuna? Yeah. Yeah. So it's not far away from what we all have, our own personal battles. If it is with our mental health, if it is changing our lives, if it is with our physical body and our conditions that we're going through. And it, you know, if you're going through a change with your health or fitness or whatever, you know, it's that journey, that ocean of awareness and accepting and brave enough to do it. Yeah, to make that change.